All right. Good evening. It's yet another daf. The snowy, we were reverse of weather postponed because we were originally supposed to be later tonight, but due to weather, we're at our original time. So try to figure that one out.
Thank you, weather.
Because of the weather, we moved Daf Yomi back to its regular time. Okay, I don't know why. Somebody else canceled the shiur, and
here we are. We benefit.
So it's good.
Are you sure it was not you?
No, it was not me who canceled. Daf Yomi this evening is sponsored by Jeffrey and Chava Bela Wald, Lili Nishmas, just paternal grandfather, grandmother. You don't have to read that. Yes, it does say grandmother. Right? Yes, it says it correctly. The Magachir made an error. Two more, and Yehuda will eliminate me. Jeff's paternal grandmother, Mrs. Rosalia Wald, Rosalia Bas Avraham, who died al Kiddush Hashem in Tarno Ghetto on the 2nd of Adar, 1942. May her neshama have an aliyah.
I'll give you a citation today.
Okay, good. Tanu Rabbanan. We are at Tanu Rabbanan. 3 lines up from the bottom, beginning of the line, Lamed Vav Amud Beis, Tanu Rabbanan. Rabbis learned Yadcha. It says in the parsha of Tefillin, V'haya l'chalios al Yadcha. It should be a sign on your hand. Zu small. That means your left arm. That's how you have to put your tefillin on your left arm. Atomer small. You say it means the left arm. Oeno ella yamin, or maybe it's your right arm. Right? It just says your hand, so it just says your arm. Talmud Lomar there says in Yeshaya, Af yadi yasda eretz v'mini tibcha shemayim. With my hand, with my arm, I formed the foundation of the land. And with my right arm, I planted the heavens or established the heavens. And therefore, you see, with one hand, he did one. With the other hand, he does the other. Yemini is clearly your right hand. That means Yadcha is the left hand. So, ve'omer, and also it says in Shoftim, Yada liyaseid tishlachna v'minya lahalmus amalim. In the song complimenting Yael about how she kills Sisera, she reaches out with her hand to get the peg, and with her right hand, she gets to hammer home the peg, right? You have to hold the peg in one hand and the hammer in the other. So therefore, that's how she kills Sisera. So you know the left hand is holding the peg. That's Yadcha. Okay, so Yada is left. So also, Omer, another one in Tehillim, it says, Lama tashiv yadcha v'minecha. Why will you hold back your hand and your right hand? Right? Two different ones. Mikerev cheikcha chalei. So again, we see that there's two different hands. Yadcha and Yemincha. Those are two different hands. Okay, so that means Yadcha is your left hand. Rabbi Yossi Hachorim says, Matzinu Yamin Shenikra Yad. We see places where the right hand is called Yad. Shenemar's pasuk says, Vayar Yosef ki yashis aviv Yad Yamino. That Yosef saw that his father had extended, he had crossed over his right hand when he comes to give a bracha to Ephraim and Menachos. And it's called Yad Yamino, so that means the word Yad is hand.
Why do you call the right hand Yad?
So that's the question. Why is it Yad called? Why is the right hand called Yad? We just said left hand is Yad. So what's going on here? Interesting note, Rabbi Yossi Hachorim. What does Hachorim mean? So Tosfos says Hachorim is right. First of all, Rashi says very interesting. Hachorim is Chotmo Mishuka. He had a sunk-in face. It's one of the blemishes that are in Bechoros as Chorum, which is where the face is sunk in. So they had called him that because of that was his blemish that he had. Tosfos says, the Kuntras says, Rashi says that it was because his face was smashed in, but that would not be a way to call your rabbi, right? That would not be a good. So he says rather that was the name of the place that he lived, right? That wouldn't make sense. But others comment that it does make sense that you might see that that he might be called Hachotim if something like that were to be a source of some kind of a miracle, right? There's a story about a person who had 6 fingers on his hand, and he's called the 6-fingered person, even though that's a deformity. But that was because they said if you take your hand out of your pocket, if you've got 6 fingers, it'll save your life, and he had 6 fingers. So we have these kinds of circumstances. We would only mention it if it was the cause of something happy that occurred. Maybe that would be why we call it 6
fingers on one hand, 5 fingers on the other hand.
Yes, that was the circumstance. Such things do happen.
Yep.
But in any event, that's the explanation of the word of Rabbi Yossi Hachorim. But in any event, right? It says his question is a good one. Why is Yad called right hand in that pasuk? Ve'idach And the Tana, so he says basically yad doesn't mean left hand or right hand, it just could mean whatever. So when it just says, so v'idach, the other one will answer you back, yad yamino ikroi. He says when your right hand is called yad yamino, then it could be listed as right hand. Yad stam, if it just says yad by itself, lo ikri, that's not your right hand, that's your left hand. So just plain yad is left hand, and that's why when it says yad cha on tefillin, it means left hand. Rabbi Nosson says, Einot tzarich, I don't need to bring that proof like that, because Harehu Omer, the pasuk tells me, Ukshartam uchsavtam, you shall tie them and you should write them, meaning maksiva beyamin, just like you write with your right hand. So then af kshira yamin beyamin. Then so too, when you tie your tefillin, you tie it with your right hand. The keva dikshira biyad yamin, since you're tying it with your right hand, hanacha bismolhi, you have to get your tefillin on your left hand. And that is why we put a lot of emphasis on whether you're a righty or a lefty when you put on your tefillin, because which hand you use to write will determine the opposite hand will be the opposite.
With the shal yad, the yad is one way. But if you pull it and then you reverse it to the other side as well.
We're not talking about the yud. We're just talking about which hand to put tefillin on in the first place, right? The yud is supposed to be on the inside, but we're not going to see that in the Gemara here. And if it happens to be that you put on, let's say, for example, you're a righty and the only person you can borrow from is a lefty, you can put it on backwards. You can put it on the other way. Be yotze that way, right? So it's not ideal, but you could do that. It's not ma'akiv. It's not one of the critical rules of tefillin to have the yud on the inside. Okay, so anyway. Rabbi Yossi HaChoreim, so also Rabbi Yochi HaChoreim says, Hanacha de bismol minole, where does he learn that you put it on with your left hand? So nafgale mehech de nafgale l'Rabbi Nosson. He learns like Rabbi Nosson does, that just like you have to tie it on with your right hand onto your left hand, and therefore tying in general there's a tying onto your left always gets a priority, and that's why we tie our shoes when we put our shoes on. We put our shoe right, shoe left, shoe tie left, and then put on right.
If you're lefty,
if you're a lefty, then you would do right. Put right shoe on, then left shoe, then tie right, and then tie left. Right. So Ravashi says yadcha ksiv. It says yadcha, right? You're with a chaf sof, right? He says that. The Torah doesn't write yadcha with a chaf sofis. It says yadcha with a hey at the end. Behei. And why is it hey? Because it's to tell you keha, your weak hand, right? Because of the hey is a feminine word, and so therefore it is to indicate your less strong hand. So that's where you tie it on. Amar le Rabbi Abel Ravashi. Rabbi Abba says Ravashi ve'ema yadcha shebakoach. Why don't you learn it as yadcha, which is like yad koach? Your strong hand. You put it on your right hand. So Amar le miksiv v'ches doesn't say with a ches. Yadcha with a koach, with yadcha with a ches at the end, you're right, that would be with strength. This is a hey, not a ches, and so therefore this drasha does not work. Ketanai. So it is a machlokas tanoim. Yadcha behei, zu small. One explains that this is yadcha with a hey at the end. That means you tie it on your left hand. Others say yadcha l'rabos es hagidim. That the word yadcha means that even if you put it on your weak hand, even if a person has a missing part of his arm, right? Still put tefillin on the remainder of your arm. Even if you don't have, let's say, you have arm severed here or whatever, you can still put tefillin on the upper part of your arm.
Or your arm gets blown off by a grenade or whatever.
Right.
So the winding, like the number of
not important, right? And that's why if you have a cast on or things like that, just as long as you can put your tefillin on, you can wrap over your cast if you have to. Tanya Idach, another brisa says, Ein lo zroa, if you have no arm, patur min tefillin, you're exempt from tefillin. So which is it? So achirim amrim yadcha. So the achirim say yadcha means l'rabos esagidim, that you will include somebody who has missing part of the arm. And Tosfos says they're not arguing with each other. They're just talking about different types of people who are missing part of their arm. If you're missing your arm all the way up here, then you don't put tefillin on, right? But if you're missing just part of your arm, so then you do put on tefillin on the part that remains. Tana Rabbanan, the Rabbi's learned. Iter, somebody who is a lefty, meiniach tefillin bimino, puts tefillin on his right arm. Shehu smolo, which is his left hand, right? His weaker hand. V'hatanya, we learn a brisa. Meiniach bismolo shu smol shokol adam, that a lefty is supposed to put tefillin on his left hand, which is the left of everybody else. So Amar Rabbi, Kitanya here, Rabbi says that brisa is besholit b'shtei yadav. That's somebody who's ambidextrous, right? This lefty who can write with his left hand is ambidextrous. If you're ambidextrous, then default is your left hand, right? If you can write with both hands. So Tana Debe Menashe, they learned in the base medrash of Menashe al yadcha, on your hand. So he says zu kiboris. That is the upper arm part of your. That's the upper part of your arm that you're supposed to put it on. So bein einecha, then it says between your eyes. Zu kadkod. That is the round part of your head. So heicha, where on your head are you supposed to put your tefillin?
In the middle.
Amri debe Rabbi Yanai, or they said in Yeshiva Rabbi Yanai, makom shemocho shatinok rofes, the place where a baby's head is still forming, right? That's the top part of the head. Top middle, exactly. Middle is going to come because it says Beinei Necha, right? But this is Beinei Necha, the Tzedukim put it literally right there, right? Beinei Necha. But that's not what it is, because it says that supposed to be on the top of your head, right? Bamine Plimo me Rebbe. So Plimo asked Rebbe the following question: Mishi Yeshlo Shnei Roshim. What happens if a guy's got two heads? Right? Question of the day.
Siamese twins.
Oh, Siamese twins, right? Which head do you put tefillin on then? Okay.
In between the heads.
So Amar Lei, so he said to him, O kum galei, either get out, O kibel lecha shmata, or you're in exile, right? One or the other. Basically threw him out of shiur for the ridiculous question. And Adachi, while this is going on, Alsahu Gavra, a guy walks into the base medrash, and Amar Lei, he says, I have a baby with two heads. So he wants to know, he doesn't, obviously he's not wearing tefillin yet, because he's a baby, but Kama B'in Lemesav, how much le Kohen, how much do I have to pay the Kohen for the pigeon aben? Right? Is it per head? Or is it per baby? Like, which way do we go here?
I'll go ahead and answer the question.
So the answer is proves to you there's no stupid questions. Right? There's no stupid questions.
It's just stupid answers.
Right? So Asa, well, he didn't give an answer. That's at first. He didn't. So Asa hu Saba, so when a certain older fellow said, Tanale, he taught as follows, Chayav litain lo asar islam, you got to pay 10. You have to pay 10, double, right? So you got a double bechor, right? They are both bechoros, right? You have to pay for both of them. So, is that true? V'hatani Rami Bar Chama, didn't Rami Bar Chama learn mitoch shenamar, since the pasuk says padot tifdeh as bechor ha'adam, that you're supposed to redeem a firstborn of a human child. Shameani afilu nitrof betoch shloshim. So I might have thought that even if he has some kind of, we presume that this baby that back then with two heads is not going to live, right? He's not going to live for very long. So,
is there a sort of procedure to just give him one head?
Well, you see, so here's the thing, right? When it comes to Siamese twins, they usually try to do with surgery in order to separate. Yeah. But sometimes you can't, because they share enough organs that there aren't enough organs to be able to split them in parts. There actually is this woman, I think, that has two heads. She's a famous person that they one of these crazy TV shows that they had where she's on, because she had to learn to drive and all this kind of stuff, and so she has two heads, right?
Is she an actress?
She's not an actress. She's just a reality TV star, which is whatever that means. So, but in any event, she's such a person, right? Has two heads.
Yeah.
So, back then we presumed that they wouldn't live, so we would call a person who couldn't live a treifa. So even this person who is a treifa, right, who becomes a treifa within 30 days. So normally, in order to do pigeon, the baby has to be alive at 30 days. That's when you do the pigeon aben. Yeah. If the baby becomes a treifa, has some kind of thing to it that the baby's not going to live within the 30 days, I might think that you don't have to do pigeon aben. So Talmud Lomer, the pasuk says, ach, right? It says only you should chalak, right? Ach, some babies you give a pigeon aben to, and some you don't. Meaning ones that are a treif that are going to die anyway, you don't have to do a pigeon aben. And ones that are going to live, you do. So therefore, why was there a requirement to give a pigeon aben in this circumstance? Yeah. So the answer, Shani Hacha, here it's different. The Torah says that it goes by your head. How so? Because the pasuk says, it says right there, you're supposed to give 5 shekel per head. So therefore, if you've got one bechor with two heads, right, you give 2. Okay.
It's gonna be big. It's gonna be a huge. It's gonna be a big bill for the
double. Yeah, that's so much.
More for the coin. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, you save on the bris. So.
What's the point? What's the point?
Mar said. Yadcha, when it says your hand, where you're supposed to put your tefillin on your hand, zu kiboris. That is the upper part of the arm, right? That's the minolan. How do I know that that's what it means? The Tanur Rabbanan rabbis learned. Al yadcha, right, on your hand. Zu gova shabiyad. It's the upper part of your arm. At omer zu gova shabiyad. You think it means that it's on the upper part of your arm. At eno ela ayad chamamish. Maybe it means on the palm of your hand, your real hand. It says you put it on your hand. Tie your tefillin right here on your hand. So Amra Torah, the Torah says hanach tefillin biyad v'nach tefillin barosh. Torah says put your tefillin on your hand, put your tefillin on your head. Malaholim begova shebarosh, just like it says put it on your head. That means on the upper part of your head. So afkan begova shebiyad. So too on your arm, it's the upper part of your arm. Rabbi Eliezer says ino tzarich. I don't need such a drasha because Harei Omer, the pasuk says v'haya lechol laos. It shall be a sign to you. Lechol laos v'lo la'achirim laos. It'll be a sign to you, not to others. The tefillin shel yad are supposed to be covered, right, when you're wearing them, right? So you put a box on them, right, and people put their shirt sleeves over it, right? Because it says lechol laos, not la'achirim laos. So you cover your tefillin shel yad when you're wearing them.
Just to cover with the jacket.
Cover it with a blazer, right? You cover it, right? When you're wearing your tefillin, you cover the arm, right? Rabbi Yitzchak says, I don't even need that drasha because Harehu Omer v'samtim es devarei eila al levavchem. It says that you're supposed to put these words on your hearts, ukshartam, and then you're supposed to tie it. Shetei sima keneged alev, which means that these words where you tie them has to be right next to your heart, which has to be your upper arm, because down here is not near your heart, so therefore has to be by your heart. That's why we also tilt it slightly inwards, right, towards the heart. Rabbi Chia brei derav avya. So Reb Chia, the son of Rav Avya, mechaved umanach le lahadi libei. He would turn his tefillin a little bit towards his heart in order to be able to mekayim this. V'samtim es divrei eila alavavchem. Reb Ashi hava Yosef kami damim. Rav Ashi was sitting before Amimar. Hava tzirya bidei v'kamischazyon tefillin. He had a blemish, a wound on his arm. So what he had to do was he had to open his shirt to give air to the wound. And because of that, his tefillin was visible. Exposed. Right, it was exposed. So Amar Lei, so Rav Ashi says to him, Lo savar lamar lecholos v'lo lachim los. Why are your tefillin exposed? Don't you hold that you're supposed to keep it covered? Right. So Amar Lei, so he says, B'mekom lecholos itmar. So he says, that is only a circumstance that doesn't literally mean it must be covered. That's to tell you where you're supposed to wear your tefillin. You're supposed to wear your tefillin in a location that is covered. However, if your tefillin is not covered, it's not that you're not yotzei. Now, you're supposed to also keep it covered, but if your tefillin is not covered, that doesn't ruin it. Okay, now, we said that we learned the upper part of your, one of the opinions said the upper arm comes from the part that it has to go in the upper part of your head. So gova shebarosh, right, it has to go in the upper part of your head. Minolan, where do I know that from? So that's because it says, D'Tana Rabbanan, our rabbis learned, Bein einecha, that your totafos are supposed to be between your eyes. Zu gova shebarosh, that's the upper part of your head. Ata omer gova shebarosh, you think it means the upper part of your head. Oeino ela bein einecha mamish. Maybe it means literally between your eyes. So Nemar Khan, it says over here, bein einecha, right? V'nemar lahalan, and it says, as far as the prohibition is concerned, about cutting your hair, balding yourself, for the prohibition of balding, the non-Jews had the custom to bald themselves as mourning sign for their dead, right? Lo sasimu karcha beinei nechem lameis. You're not supposed to shave a bald spot between your eyes. And it says, bald spot between your eyes. Obviously, you're not shaving right here. Ma lahalan begova shebarosh, just like there when it says beinei necha, it means the upper part of your head up here. So, makom she Osa karcha, that's the location where you're supposed to not allowed to be bald. Afkan, so here too, begova shorosh, also beinei necha means between your eyes, and that's why the tefillin has to be up there as well. Malcolm she'osa karcha, it has to be a place where hair is or was, right? Rabbi Yehuda says, "Eino tzarich." I don't need that pasuk. I have a different source. He says, "Amra Torah." The Torah says, "Hanach tefillin biyad v'hanach tefillin barosh." You're supposed to put tefillin on your hand. You're supposed to put tefillin on your head. Ma lahalam b'makom haroi litame b'nega echad. Just like on your arm, you don't have hair on your arm, so there's a tuma. If you have it's a white hair or yellow hair. I get them confused. I think it's a yellow hair on open skin. If you have yellow hair on open skin, that's a sign of tzaras. So therefore, the white hair, white hair wouldn't be a sign of tzaras. So therefore, afkan. Well, I have it backward. I think it's a white hair, right? Because it would make sense. It wouldn't be a white hair on a head because that would just be regular. So a white hair. So that's going to cause you to get tuma on your skin. So afkan. So too by the tefillin b'makom haroy litame b'nega echad, it would be a place where there's only one type of tuma, meaning if you have a yellow hair, right? So therefore, it's only going to be able to accept tuma. La fuke beinecha, but between your eyes, right here, that's not a great place because de'ika basar v'seyar. It has both hair, you have eyebrows, and you have also skin. In which case,
how can you if it's here? How can you daven? If you're sitter, how can you see your sitter?
well, you don't have like your hair doesn't come over your whole face, right? You have eyebrow, like long eyebrow, right? So if you have that, if you have hair over there, de'ika se'ar lavon ve'ika nami sar tzahov. So he says what you could have tzaras in that area by either a white hair or a yellow hair, because the yellow hair is because there's hair there, and it's the white hair because when there's only skin there. So therefore, that would not be a place for tefillin. So therefore, it can't be here. It has to be up here. Okay, let's move on to some tzitzis. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to move on to tzitzis. Arba tzitzios me'akvos zu es zu. The four corners of tzitzis, the four different placements of tzitzis, they're all required. She'arbas on mitzvah achas. All four of them together are one mitzvah. And Rabbi Yishmael disagrees. He says they're four separate mitzvahs. So the question the Gemara wants to know is, my beinaihu, what is the difference between those two opinions? So Amar Rav Yosef says, Sodin betzitzis ika beinaihu. The question is, if you have a garment that is made of linen, right, and you put the tzitzis, which are made of wool, onto that garment, right?
Shotness.
There would be a shotness problem. So now, right, if you put all four wool, well, not obviously, if you put all four wool strings of tzitzis onto your linen garment, then that's okay. Because it's not shot, because it is shotness, but aseh dochalos aseh, positive commandment of putting on tzitzis pushes off the negative commandment of wearing shotness, and you're okay.
For shotness, doesn't the wool and linen have
Have
to
to
be
be woven together?
Exactly.
Not even necessary, because, right, even if you have, let's say, a suit jacket and you've got one of your buttons sewn on with linen fabric, with linen material, or they see whether the lining could be made out of linen, right? Even if it's not woven in together, if they're all sewn, if it's sewn and attached together, it's still a problem.
Huh.
Right?
So if you have a linen shirt, then you put a...
That's okay. If you have a linen shirt with a wool sweater, you're okay. Right? That's okay. Right? But if you've got one of these fake collars, right, a linen collar, and it's sewn into the wool sweater, then it will be a problem. Right?
Huh.
So now, what happens if I've got my linen garment and I've run out of tzitzis? I only have enough to put on three corners. Okay, so according to the Chachamim, it's not kosher, and you're wearing shotness. Because it's a double whammy. Not only are you not yotze because you didn't have tzitzis on all of them, but now the tzitzis that you do have are wool on a linen garment. You're wearing shotness.
Is that really mitzvah tzitzis if it's not in the four corners?
And according to Rabbi Yishmael, he says, well, no, because the three tzitzis that are hanging there are a mitzvah. So therefore, the mitzvah, the positive commandment of those three are docha de lo saseh, and therefore it's not shotness.
If you're missing one, you don't have 3/4. It's our puzzle.
So that's the machlokas between Rabbi Yishmael and the Chachamim, right? Yeah. The Chachamim say that it's all one. It's either all four or nothing, and Rabbi Yishmael says no. Let's see, each one is its own mitzvah.
Here with this when we hold by Rabbi Shmuel.
We do not hold like Rabbi Yishmael. We do not hold like Rabbi Yishmael, right? We require tzitzis on all four, right? Rava Barahina Amar, Rava Barahina, he says, I'll explain to you what the machlokas is about. Talis balas chamesh ikubeinahu. What happens if you have a talis that has 5 corners? Right? Within a 5-corner garment, you have 4 corners. So, according to the Chachamim, right, it's all one mitzvah. So therefore, how many tzitzis do you have to put on? 4, right? It's always 4 or nothing. So even if you have 5 corners, you only hang 5 tzitzis on it, not 5. Rabbi Yishmael says each corner is a mitzvah. Go ahead and put 5 on that one, right? So that's how Rabbi Yishmael learns it. Okay. Ravina Amar, Ravina says, I'll tell you what the difference is. The Rav Huna Ikebeinaihu, what the statement of what Rav Huna says, that's what's different. That's what the difference is. The Amar Rav Huna, as Rav Huna says, Hayotze betalis she'ena mitzuyases kihilchasa b'Shabbos. If a person goes out wearing his talis, which doesn't have tzitzis on it, on Shabbos, chayiv chatas you're carrying, right? Because you can't be wearing that. Right, that talis that you're wearing, it's prohibited to wear. You can't wear it because now it's not
kosher talis.
So it's a non-kosher talis, so therefore you cannot be wearing it. Well, if you're not wearing it, what are you doing with the interest? You're carrying it. So therefore, according to the Chachamim, right, if I don't have all four on, then I'm carrying, and it's possible because there's no mitzvah. Well, it's not really the talis that I'm carrying to be straight and clear. The talis I am wearing. I'm wearing it illegally, but I am wearing it. The question is, what about the tzitzis, the other three tzitzis that are dangling from it? I'm carrying those because they're not really part or helpful in any way to the talis. So I'm carrying those. According to Rabbi Shmuel, no, the three that are there are perfectly fine. They're mitzvos. Not carrying. According to the Chachamim, having three on does me no good. Therefore, you're just schlepping and carrying three extra strings.
We're going according to the Chachamim.
We're going according to the Chachamim the whole way, yes. Amar Rav Shisha Brei de Rav Idi. So Rav Shisha, the son of Rav Idi, says, Haiman de Batsrei Liglime, right? Somebody who cuts his garment, right, with the intent, right? He wants to remove one of the corners, right? That's his idea. So he takes one of the corners and he cuts it. So now he's got a double corner, right? Lo avid v'lo klum. It doesn't help him at all because shav yetalis balas chamesh. Because now all he's done is he's made his talis into a talis that has 5 corners. Still needs tzitzis on it. Because you still got 4 corners, you'll still need a 5th corner, right? We're going to explain this.
Even if you have 5th corner, you still need 4 to 5.
You're going to need 4 according to the Chachamim, 5 according to Rabbi Shmuel. Right?
And we're going to come to Chachamim.
Always according to the Chachamim, yes. And we'll discuss this further on Daf Mem Gimel. So we'll hang on to wait for there. Amar of Mishar Shiur of Mishar says, Haimand ditzayrei leglime. Okay, guy says, I don't want to wear tzitzis, right? So what he does is he takes his tzitzis and he ties the tzitzis, he ties the corners together so that they are not now separate corners. They're tied together. So lo avid v'lo klum, doing so doesn't do anything. My time, what's the reason? The command is shar yedami. It says though they're untied. What difference does it make when you tie them or not? Because right, utnan nami, we have a Mishnah like that also. Kol chamasos hatzruros, all of these leather, they would have these leather water carriers, like water, the canteens, like a flask, a leather flask. And if you tie them, they would tie the bottoms of them together and then fill them with water. So those are tahoros. Those can't be except tuma. Why? Because there's a big hole in it. But I tied it up. Tying it up doesn't make it into a utensil. It doesn't remove the hole. Why? Because if I wanted to remove the hole, I would have sewn it up. Same thing with this tzitzis. Tying it doesn't mean anything because if I want it to be permanent, I would have sewn it together. The fact that I'm only tying it means I want it to be temporary, so therefore it's meaningless. So therefore, chutz mishal arvim, except for the Arabs. The Arabs, they have these a temporary, right.
It could be that, like, you do it with a key or something, and you're tying it for another purpose?
Well, no, because you're thinking about to prevent carrying on Shabbos. So this is in order to prevent you having from 4 corners on your garment, so you can be exempt from tzitzis.
Some people have this
right? That's this different type of a thing. Yeah.
Some people have these those elastic things that on top of the tzitzis to doesn't carrying.
If you say they put the elastic on their tzitzis to be able to keep it from falling off your shoulders,
or that, or with a key on it to avoid you from carrying.
With a key on it, well, we'll talk briefly about that for a second. But the issue with carrying on a key on Shabbos, right, is that if you have no eruv, you can't carry it in any way that even you attach it or put it in any sort of way. The only way to bring that key around is if it becomes part of your garment. So there was a belt that they used to make, right?
Made of rubber, right?
It was not. The belt was not made of. The belt was a regular leather belt, but the belt had on this side a little hook, and you could attach your key to the hook, like so. Okay, and then on this part of the belt, it had 2 hooks like this. and then when you attached, it would clip over the end of the key, and that would seal the belt. Now, the nice thing about you can't see the key because it's underneath, and it's now clasped and holds on. Without the key, that belt does not work, right? So the key is part of the belt, and now you can carry it. So that's a very useful way of, haven't seen those belts in forever, right? They used to sell those around that.
Really?
Then you can theoretically make a piece of jewelry out of your key, but it has to be fancy enough that you are wearing it just to show it off, right? You can't just be like, as if people like clip their key to their shirt or whatever, and like, ooh, look how my fancy key. No, but like if it becomes diamond studded, right, and you make it all fancy and you're wearing it, and you would wear it even if you didn't need to be on Shabbos, then it could be theoretically a piece of jewelry as well, right? So there are ways to do it. But just
There was a big trend with that actually.
huh?
There was a big trend with the key jewelry.
Yeah, right.
Tiffany came out with that.
Yeah, so there you go. So if you did such a thing, see, he doesn't, right? He knows. He knows. So if you had a key like that, so then you could wear that on Shabbos, right? But if you're just going to tie it to your tallis with a piece of elastic, that you can't walk around with. That's not going to work. So it would have to be part of the garment in some kind of way. It's meaningful way. Okay. Omar Ravdimi Minardoi. So Ravdimi Minardoi says, Haiman dechaite liglime. Those who fold up their corners of their garments and they sew it up. Right, so now they're sewing it up in order to make it into a non-four-cornered garment, so they don't have tzitzis on. Lo avid v'lo klum. Even that doesn't help you. Why? Because im isa de lo boile lifsok lishadye. Because what they're doing is they're taking their garment, and here's your corner, and they're just taking this and folding it over here so that now it's folded up this way, and then they're sewing it like this. If they really wanted to make this into a garment that had that angle, you wouldn't keep this part. You would just cut this off, and then you would just make a hem right there and sew it up, right? Why did you keep the corner? The answer is because you intend to undo it later, right? So therefore, that's not, again, it's not a permanent change to your garment. If you make a permanent change to your garment, then you can eliminate the fourth corner. But if all you do is sew it up, that's not going to be enough. Rabbi Yishmael are bought in our bar mitzvahs. Okay, Rabbi Yishmael says, each of the four tzitzios are their own mitzvah. So Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda said, Rabbi Shmuel, halacha ki Rabbi Yishmael. The halacha is like Rabbi Yishmael, but v'leis hilchos kavasei. But the halacha is not like Rabbi Shmuel, who says halacha is like Rabbi Yishmael. So it's not true, right? And said that was the halacha, but it's not true. Ravina Amar, Ravina hava ka'azil abasrei demar. So Ravina, here's the story. He was going and walking behind Mar Bar Ravashi. He was walking behind Mar Bar Ravashi, b'Shabbato derigla. It was Shabbos of the Regel. It was a Shabbos of the Regel, so different interpretations. It was
the feet.
Sorry, Regel is your Shlosh Regalim, is the holiday, right? So what happens is that before Yom Tov, the Shabbos before Yom Tov, the rabbi gives a big speech to tell you Shabbos Agadol, right? To be able to tell you all the story, right? So it was everybody was around, and so he's walking behind Ravashi, and Ifsik Karna Dechute, he sees that one of the corners of his talus, right, his tzitzis, are ripped. So he sees it's no good. V'lo amar leil v'lo midi, he didn't tell him, right? Because what was he? If he tells him what's going to happen, he's going to not carry, right? So he didn't tell him, right? Kadmata levese, when he got home to his house, amar le mehalsim ifsik. He says, look, you've got your tzitzis are puzzle. I happen to notice your tzitzis are puzzle.
So he didn't want to embarrass them.
But he didn't tell him in public. So Amar Le, Iyamart Li Mehasam, should he say, if you would have told me before, I would have taken it off, I would have taken my talus off. Right in the street. Now, when we were talking about talus, right, they didn't have, it wasn't like they were wearing it like we wear a talus over your suit and whatever. That was his shirt, basically, right? It's all wrapped up. He said, I would have imagine like Gandhi, whatever, all wrapped up, right? If you would have told me, I would have taken it off. The ha amar, yeah, but why would he have taken it off, right? Don't we say that Godol Kavod Abriya Shadocha Los Asesha B'Torah, that honor of a person is greater than a negative commandment. So it would have been embarrassing for him to walk around half dressed in public. So therefore, he shouldn't have taken it off, because what are you worried about? It's a negative commandment of wearing a four-corner garment without. It's a positive commandment to wear the tzitzis with it, right? But even a negative commandment he could violate because it's not because of kavod abrius, because it's disrespectful. So Tirgama Rav Bar Shava Kami de Rav Kahana. So, but we already explained that Rav Bar Shava said it before Rav Kahana that this negative commandment is belav de lo tasur. It's not every negative commandment. It overrides the negative commandment of don't turn away from what the rabbis tell you. Meaning, you have to follow. There's a prohibition of the Torah not to disobey Durabbanans, and
to do the wrong thing.
sorry.
Even if you say
No, the rabbis give us halacha, right? The rabbis have taught us what the halacha is, right? So if the rabbis say, right, you're not allowed to. It says Shabbos, you're not allowed to tear in order to sew something up. To Rabbanon, you're not allowed to tear even to destroy. Right, this is a classic example. Right, you're not allowed to tear even to destroy. What about if you find yourself in the washroom and there's no toilet paper? Right. Okay, so there is a kavod abrius situation. Kavod abrius, as we're going to see in a moment, that we're not going to see here, right? That if you're in a circumstance of kavod abrius and you have a issue of a derabanan prohibition, so then you can violate the derabanan prohibition in order to protect you from kavod abrius.
even if it's by pre-cut.
That's where you should avoid the pre-cut section, right? Because then it's a makbeh patish, which is a doraisa problem. Right. So you tear between the pre-cut sections, right? So that's what you're trying to avoid. Now, okay, does it say what? Say it there.
That's the,
That's the key. That's the key. Very good. That's okay. Very good style. That's the style key, right? So now you have to change your door to fit the key, right? So there you go. So. So now the question is, when you're following a durabanan, right? We have a rule, suffix durabanan lakula, right? If doubtful durabanans are leniencies. If every durabanan is really a Torah rule, right? It says that you're not supposed to. The Torah says don't violate the rabbis. So does that mean that what does that mean? A suffix durabanan? So some opinions say no. It's just that a suffix durabanan means, right, that you're not. You have to, when it comes to a Torah rule, if you have a doubt of whether it's a doraisa or not, so you have a suffix a doraisa. With the rabbanans, if there's a suffix, the rabbanan didn't even talk about that circumstance. The rabbanan only make their rules when it is when they're sure. So a suffix rabbanan, we go leniently because there is no such thing as one explanation of the suffix rabbanan issue. Now, ve'ikad amri mehasam amarle. Some say that wasn't the story, right? The story was he was angry at him. You should have told me. I would have taken it off. And he was right. He would have taken it off in public, and that is what he should have done. That was one version of the story. This version of the story is that he did tell him in the middle of the street, right? V'amarle, my datech l'mishtiyeh says, why are you telling me now? Are you telling me now because you expect me to take it off, right, in the middle of the street? Better that I shouldn't have known, because if I wouldn't have known, then I can't take it off anyway here. V'amar gadol kavod abrius shedoches losas issue Torah. I have a kavod abrius issue. I can't take it off. So v'ha tirgama Rav Bar Shava Kami de Rav Kahana belav de lo tasar. But didn't we say? What do you mean? It's only durabanans that he doesn't have to take it off. So why was he saying that I don't have to take my shirt off? It's only a problem of durabanans. Here it's not a problem of durabanan. You have a carrying issue. It's a doraisa issue. So Hanami, the answer here is Carmelis. He wasn't carrying in public, right? He would. It was a Carmelis, right? It was the. He was carrying in a rabbinically prohibited area. Derabanan, he was only rabbinically prohibited. Therefore, he didn't have to take it off then. And he would have, so that's why there's a rule, right? If the Erev's down, right? Let's say an Erev's down, and you see a person pushing the stroller, right? You don't say anything to them till they get home, right? Because don't want to. This is that story, right? You don't want them to have to stop. Only derabanan. So therefore, if they don't know, you don't have an obligation to tell them, right? So don't be the tzaddik who goes around telling everybody that the Erev's down.
Hero.
Right? Don't do that. Okay. Hadron alacha kumitz rabba, hadron alacha kumitz rabba, hadron alacha kumitz rabba. We move into the fourth parak, and everybody has to take out their new gemaras.
Yes.
Volume 2.
Yes.
Here we go.
Geschmack, volume 2.
All right. Pasuk says, right? V'asulahem tzitzis. You're supposed to put tzitzis al kanfei bigdehem, and you're supposed to put on the tzitzis a knaf psil techelas. On the tzitzis, you put a string of techelas, right? So now says the Mishnah. Hatchelas, the tchelas part of tzitzis, ena ma'akeves es halavon. Right? If you don't have tchelas, that's not going to stop you from putting the white on. And halavon, ena ma'akeves es tchelas. And if you put 4 blues on, that's also okay. Right? It doesn't have to be that you need both the blue and the white. If all you have is blue and all you have all is white, you can put one and not the other. They're not.
If you have only blue, you can use all of blue.
That's right. Yes. Right. You don't have to. You can use all blue. You can use all white. You don't need to have both. Okay.
2 blue, 2 white.
Right.
Mix and match.
Right.
Originally, anyway, the idea was all blue, right?
No, because it says in the Psukim it says that you should put on tzitzis, and then on the tzitzis you put on a seal of tchelas. So therefore, it should be that you put mostly white and then one string of tchelas in it, right? And that's what you see people do, right? So put the string of tchelas in, but you don't need to have both, right? Now also tefillah shel yad eina ma'akeves shel rosh. If you've got a shel yad and not the shel rosh, right? You doesn't stop you if you don't. If you don't have a tefillin shel yad, it shouldn't stop you from putting on tefillin shel rosh. And shel rosh, eina me'akeves el shel yad. And if all you have is the shel yad, then the shel rosh missing isn't going to stop you from putting on the shel yad, right? If you've got one, not the other, go ahead and put it on, right? Each one can be its own mitzvah. So says the Gemara, Lema masnisin de lo Rebbe. Let's say our Mishnah doesn't follow Rebbe's opinion. The Tanya we learned in a brisa, ureisem also. The pasuk says by tzitzis that you have to be able to see them. Malamed shema akvin zeh. It says that ureisem also you will see it, which is a singular, right? That means that the white and the blue combined together makes it one mitzvah. Also, you will see it. It's one item now. So that means that the blue and the white are required. Different Rabbi, that's what Rabbi says. But Chum says, Ein ma'akvin. Nope, the two things are two separate things, and you don't have to need them both. My time in the Rabbi. What is the reason why Rabbi says that? Dichsiv, because the pasuk says, hakanaf, right? The pasuk says that it's going to be the tzitzis hakanaf, the corners, the fringes of the corner. Min kanaf, right? You have to make your tzitzis out of the same material that the corner is made out of. Right? So that is, since most of your talis is white, so therefore you need to have fringes that are white. Okay? Uksiv, and then it says, psil tchelas. You need to be able to put also strings that are blue. V'amarachmana ureisem also. Now, so you know you have to have white, and you know you have to have blue, and then the Torah says, and you will see it, singular. Ad'ika tarvayu bechad, when you take the two of them and you tie them together in a single unit. So that is how you do it. Okay, so that's that. V'rabbanan, and the Rabbanan says, V'risim oso, you will see it. Kochan l'chudei mashma, you will see it, meaning that you'll see the white, you'll see the blue, each one of them. Lema de lo Rebbe. So therefore, our Mishnah is not like Rebbe, right? Our Mishnah says that you don't need them to. You don't need to have them both together. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Rav, Rabbi says in Rav, Afilu tema, no, you can, Afilu tema Rebbe could even be according to Rebbe's opinion. Lo nitzracha el lekadem, right? He says, the Mishnah isn't saying that each one is required, but it's telling you that there's no need to put whichever one first, right? You don't have to put in the tchelas before the white, right? Or sorry, the white is before the blue. So if you're supposed to put the white in first, and then add the blue in. That's what you're supposed to put the white strings in and then the blue. But if you do it the other way around, but the Eved, it's not ma'akev. That's what he's saying. When one is not ma'akev the other. He holds you have to have both. But one is not ma'akev the other means it doesn't really matter which one you put in first. Right? If you put the white in first, then good. If you put the blue in first, that's also okay. Tanya, as we learned in a brisa, mitzvah lahaktim lavan l'tchelas, it's a mitzvah to put the white in first. When you're tying it onto the corner, you string it through, put the white in. Im hiktim tchelas love, but if you put the blue in first, yotza, it's okay. Ella shechitzer mitzvah, you just left out one of the mitzvah, right? Because the mitzvah says you're supposed to put tzitzis in the corner and then put a tchelas in the tzitzis. You missed the opportunity to perform that action. My chitzer mitzvah, what do you mean when the Bible says you're missing a mitzvah? So, Amar ilema chitzer mitzvah delavan, what do you mean? He's missing his white now, meaning that because he put the blue in first, the white is no good. Kia mitzvah kia mitzvah, but he kept the tchelas. So l'Rebbe kuvi ma'akiv hadodi. That can't be because Rabbi says you need both of them, right? You can't have no white. The white has to count. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. So said Rav shechisar mitzvah va'aseh mitzvah. He's missing a mitzvah, but you've done a mitzvah. Umay chisar mitzvah de lo avad mitzvah min amuvchar. What does it mean? He's missing a mitzvah. You didn't do it in the best possible way. You did the mitzvah. You've got tzitzis, but you didn't do it the best way. The white is supposed to go first according to the pasuk and not the blue. Okay. Ha tinach lavan de'eno ma'akiv es hatchelas. I understand that the white isn't required for the tchelas. Because the Mishnah says, tchelas de'eno ma'akiv es lavan mahi. Where do I know that the tchelas isn't going to stop the white? Meaning that if you put white in first, that is, right, that isn't required. How do I know that? So Amar Rami Bar Chama, Rabbi Chama says, Lo nitzracha ella letalis shekula tchelas. So the issue is, what if I have a talis that's completely tchelas? Right, that's a correct question. If I have a talis that's completely tchelas, I don't need white strings because the white is only there because it says that you're supposed to make strings that are the same color as the talis. So I've got white strings and then I can add blue to it. But if I've got if I've got a talis that's completely blue, right? So then you have to put the blue strings in first, right? In this circumstance, you're supposed to put the blue ones in first, and then then you'll put the white ones in afterwards. So that's the mitzvah to do it. So the Mishnah is saying, also in that circumstance, if you put the white in first and then the blue, you're still okay, right? But you're yotzei b'diavad, but you should put the blue in first and then the white. Whatever is the color of the talis, that's the one that you put in first. Itmar nami. It has also been said in the Beis HaMedrash. Amar le Levi l'Shmuel. Levi said to Shmuel, Er yoch lo tesev akarech. He said to him, he said king. He called his Rebbe the king. So he says, don't sit on your ankles, meaning don't sit down. So you got to teach me, you got to explain this to me. The tchelas doesn't stop the white, and the white doesn't stop the blue. Mahi, what does that mean? What does the Mishnah mean when it says that? So Amar Leisa Shmuel said to him, Lo nitzracha el l'sodin betzitzis. So it's telling us that if somebody puts a white garment, right? If he has got a white garment, the mitzvah laktume lavan bereisha, where the mitzvah is to put the white strings in first, right? My time, what's the reason? Because it says hakanaf, you're supposed to put in the corner. Min hakanaf, you put the type that the corner is made out of. The aktim tchelas lavan, but if you put the blue in first, leis lan ba, that is not ma'akiv. That's what the Mishnah means to say. It's not ma'akiv, right? So tinach lavan, I understand the white. De'eno ma'akev es hatchelas, that's not going to stop the tchelas. If you put the tchelas in first, it's not going to ruin it. But how do you have a circumstance where tchelas de'eno ma'akev es halavan, where the tchelas is not going to stop the white? So Amar Rami Bar Chama says, Lo nitzracha el talis shekula tchelas. If I have a talis which is completely blue, the mitzvah lakdume tchelas bereisha. It's a mitzvah in that circumstance to put the blue in first, because that's the color of the talis. Da knaf min knaf, because it says you're supposed to take from the knaf, from the corner, the type from the corner. But if you put the white in first, leis lan ba, again, you're okay. Amar Rava says, Midi tziva kagarim. He says, I don't understand. The color, right, makes the counts, meaning because if your talis is blue, you've got to put blue in first. Right? Aren't we saying that white always goes in first? Because the talisim are mostly, talitot is actually, right? Talisim is an Ashkenazism, right?
There's a person here, so.
Right? But there's a presumption that every Sephardi person knows how to say, knows Hebrew grammar. I don't know. But it is talitot, right? It is not talisim, right? It's not shabbosim, talisim. We've got a whole bunch of them there. Shabbatot, right? It's not shabbosim. We've got our shabbosim, we've got our talisim. Ashkenazim have a whole thing, right? Get away with it, right? It sounds.
One thing I don't understand here. It says that the tzitzit are supposed to be in the same fabric as the.
Not necessarily. Well, we're gonna.
You saying the color?
The color, same color, correct. At the moment, we've been using wool, right? We've been using a wool garment and wool tzitzis. where we discussed before at the end of last parak that they could even be shotness if you have linen garment and wool. So the rule is, I don't want to get necessarily ahead, but the rule is that wool, you could put wool and linen tzitzis on any material. But if you could, so basically you can have linen tzitzis also. But if you have tzitzis made out, if you have a beged made from any other material, so then you can put wool on it, but you can also put that material as well. So if you have cotton shirt, you could make cotton tzitzis out of it theoretically, right? But we put wool on all of our garments. We use wool exclusively for everything anyway.
Right.
Now, I was just confused because here in the Gemara it doesn't say the same color, it says the same fabric.
It says the same fabric?
It says
from the kanaf, from the corner, right? But it says, but the kanaf is the color.
Is the color, it's not the fabric?
Right? It's
Color, yeah.
it's the color, right? It says because it's the color blue, so therefore you're going to take the blue wool, right? Because you have your garment is blue. So, however, this Rava he's struggling with it. Rava says, the fact that color is going to cause me to determine which strings go in first. Shouldn't we just say that the majority of the time white goes in first, so therefore white is supposed to go first? That's the way mitzvos are. Is that there's a rule for it. White goes before blue, then white goes before blue, then just leave it like that. So it doesn't matter, even if it's tchelas, you should put, right? Because the pasuk says kanaf first and then add tchelas, so put the white in first. Ela Rava, so Rava explains, lo nitzracha ela legardumin. So what we're discussing, the Mishnah is talking about one doesn't require the other, is if you have tzitzis that tear and a little bit is left, right? They didn't tear all the way down to the bottom, right? You've got this little bit of the tzitzis is torn, but you've got a little bit left. Igar dum tchelas v'kai lavan. If the tchelas is the one that rips and the white strands are left, so then v'ida igar dam lavan v'kai tchelas, or the white one breaks and the tchelas is left, so then leis lan ba. That does not matter, right? You don't say, well, the tchelas is now ruined, so therefore the tzitzis are no good, or the white one's ruined. Either, it does not matter. One of them gets ruined, it's still acceptable. To Amri b'nei Rabbi Chia, the children of Rabbi Chia said, gardume tchelas. If you've got leftover little leftover little bit of the tchelas after some of it gets broken off, so ksherin, they are kosher. The gardume ezov ksherin. Also, we said the leftover part of a hyssop branch that is left over, then it's also kosher. But the Gemara wants to know the kamashi or gardumin. How much is this amount, right? You can't rip it all the way off. How much is it? So Amar Bar Hamduri, Amar Shmuel. So Bar Hamduri says the name of Shmuel, Kedela Anvan. You have to have enough left that you can tie a knot in it, right? So, right, you have to be able to tie a knot in it. If it's so short, right, if the break in it is so short that you can't tie a knot in it, then that's broken off. Okay, so.
And then it's puzzle?
And that makes them puzzle, yes. So this is a slip knot, right? We're going to actually see that. It's not so simple, right? One of them breaking off isn't going to ruin it because the other side is still okay. You need two potentially to break off, right? But okay, yes, but that's the truth. And the knot that we're talking about doing, he has a little picture that it's going to be a slip knot. So we asked the following question. K'dela anvan kula bahadadi. Do we mean to be able to tie all of the 8 garment? In other words, how's this slip knot working? Are we saying that you have to be able to tie all 8 of the threads into a slip knot and this will work too? O dilma kochad v'chad v'chudei. Or are we saying that each strand in itself has to be able to be a slip knot? And I guess that's a smaller amount. So teku, so that's a suffix. So therefore we go by the halacha that we need to go by the, right? We try to have the larger of the size ideally. By Rav Ashi says, Alimi delo mi'anvi. What if the tzitzis are very thick, and because of their thickness, you can't tie them? Right? You get really thick tzitzis. V'yahavu katini mi'anvi. But if that same length would have been a thin tzitzis, you would have been able to tie it. What will be the halacha there? Amar Rav Acha brei de Rava Rav Ashi. So Rav Acha, the son of Rava, says to Rav Ashi, Kol shekain deminkar mitzvah saihu. So he says that's for sure kosher, because the fact that they're thicker make them better, right? That's why people are more makbid on getting nice and thick tzitzis, right? The thicker ones are better. So therefore you're not going to say, well, because it's thick, now you can't tie it, and therefore it's less kosher. That doesn't make sense. So, okay, stop there.
Beautiful. Oh yeah.
Look at that. You